It's going to talk about the future of hotel reviews. Thank you very much. It's great to see so many people in this room. Actually, the room is really packed. Now, first of all, question to you. Who is regular reviewer of hotels? Who's a regular reader of hotel reviews? And who of you reads more than 5 hotel reviews whenever they go on one single travel? So who loves to read even more than 10 hotel reviews? And who feels, it's a bit of information overkill after having read 20 hotel reviews? Actually, I'm here to talk about a specific topic. Actually, we're coming from a revolutionary idea which has actually reached the end of its life cycle. Back in 2005, I was very much in favor of hotel reviews. I'm very much in favor of hotel reviews still as it is, don't get me wrong. I was one of the founding fathers of hotel reviews. I was one of the trailblazers. I fought tooth and nail for it because I really thought it's a genuine revolution. It is a disruptive revolution. And it was a game changer. The market before hotel reviews was a completely different market than after hotel reviews. So it was a game changer. So all of the old insignia of the industry, hotel stars, asterisks, actually lost in terms of clout, lost in terms of meaning. Suddenly the consumer came or the guest said, well, actually, it's not really worth 5 stars. I didn't feel at home. All of these convoluted, exacting descriptions where you actually have to take a kind of magnifying glass in order to read all the small print and all the wonderful catalog brochures of the OTAs, such as central location, and our regular visitors love it. Actually, it was all the double meanings, and you had to read between the lines. All of these intransparent things were swept away with the advent of hotel reviews, especially the glossy brochures of the hotels, which were still holding on to a marketing paradigm of the 1980s, 1990s, where it was just about presenting the glossiest pictures and the glossiest language. And now a genuine media revolution kicked in, the senders becoming the receiver. It was a revolution of the marketing communication. That's what we thought back then. But now this has been replaced once again. Wisdom of the crowd has arrived, and it replaces the lies and the hegemonic knowledge and these, really bland public marketing slogans. And I mean, hotels are an emotional product, and I want to find out more, and this is why the hotel reviews came in. And back then, with the advent, there was a revolutionary utopia, because any revolution is tied to a utopia. You talk about lofty ideals of the future, and that's also the backbone of regular political revolution. And the revolutionary utopia back then was that suddenly we're going to have total transparency, and we're going to have a clearer idea, and we will have perfect knowledge. It's going to be our peers who are going to write this. I will never make the wrong choice again. I will never end up staying at a hotel which doesn't live to my expectations, a hotel which is just bad, and I will find the right product for myself. This was the utopia back then. And, in an ideal world, that utopia would have materialized. And I find all these wonderful reviews which describing the finest detail, what the food is like, how clean it is, how friendly the staff are. And based on these hotel reviews, that was revolutionary utopia back then. People believed they would find the right product, and that was a genuine revolution. If you look back to the early days, 2005, 2006, etc., this is where the industry was fighting tooth and nail against the hotel reviews. The hotels said, no, I don't want to have a review. I don't want to give the right to regular guests to write a review. They've got no idea. They don't know anything about the business. Apart from that, there were also people who benefited from this. We had average products who got, a frank rating, and people saying that wasn't too impressive, and that was reflected in the hotel review. And suddenly we had prominent and, fine boutique hotels which were received a bigger profile and suddenly appeared on the surface and appeared at top rankings. Small family-run hotels suddenly gained visibility, but it also upped the ante and created more pressure to performance. And suddenly people say, oh, you only have 70% recommendation at holiday check. Otherwise, the OTAs said, well, I'll kick you out. Otherwise, you have to give me a discount. And that's also one of the backside. And some people said, okay, it's a family-run business. I've been doing my business for 30 years. I didn't get a bad rating over the past. But they didn't know how to handle the criticism in bad reviews. On the other hand, you got the first hotel social media buffs, hoteliers, who were also social media literate and who kind of optimized or leveraged that revolution. So any of the DNA of a genuine revolution, victims and profiteering, etc. All the ingredients were involved there in the early days. Well, that was driving with a view in the rearview mirror. That was the past. What about the present, 2017? Hotel reviews have become part of the establishment. They're part and parcel of the system, and their revolutionary prowess, anything that made up their DNA back then, which I just spelled out a minute ago, has reached the end of its tether. Now, revolution, that begs the question, is this still revolution? Well, hotel review is just a basic feature. It's a commodity. You can't sell any trip without actually getting a consumer review. I mean, you either got a thumbs up, you actually got a thumbs up from the whole room when I asked you, are you reading the reviews? Well, you want to get insurance. You don't believe the glossy brochures. Well, it's part and parcel of day-to-day business. And also in brick and mortar sales, people work with the reviews. So it's just a commodity. It's not a genuine revolution anymore. But we have reviews of intransparent origin and with a very heterogeneous quality. I've got an avalanche of big data, so 30 million reviews on Booking.com, Holiday Check, millions on Google, Expedia, HRS, Traveltainment, etc. Millions and millions of hotel reviews. I've got no idea what the quality is, what the origin is. Sometimes it originates in meta portals, partly it's also mixed up with each other. The only thing is, the aggregate, the average value, is it just a complete failure? Okay, it's got 4.5 stars, so it's going to be okay. But the individual review actually provides hardly any value added. It's hackneyed, and as consumers, we hardly benefit from individual reviews. Hardly anyone's got the time to read high-quality reviews. It's also to do with our attention spans, our sound bites. Usually we write very snappy, short text messages and read very short messages. Our average time span on a Facebook stream is maybe 10 seconds, and then, that's the end of our attention span. The same applies to hotel reviews. Hardly anyone leaves through pages and pages of hotel reviews, and hardly anyone writes them. This is the regular hotel reviews. We were there, it was nice, people were friendly, we're going to come back. Full stop, period. Does that provide me with any meaningful information, value added? Well, let's get back to the revolutionary utopia at the very beginning. It's the end of a utopia. It's the demise of a utopia because it's caused the death blow to total transparency, more knowledge, finding the right product. What about it? More knowledge. Hotel reviews are more than ever a marketing communication tool. Marketing and communication has just replaced the glossy brochures or the glossy language. I need hotel reviews. It's a basic feature. It's a commodity. I need to kind of gather it. Of course, I'll proactively go out there and read hotel reviews. For many years, I recommended to hoteliers, read your hotel reviews, talk to your regular customers, incentivize a hotel review. If you write a review, you're going to get a little bit special or something special. Or, for instance, fake reviews. Well, hardly you don't get any hardcore reviews. hardcore falsified reviews, but actually, it's a tightrope act. I mean, what about my regular customers writing reviews and people being incentivized to write reviews? Maybe I'll give them Air Berlin miles or miles and more, and I'll increase the volume of reviews, but the meaningful of the higher quantity in reviews is declining. So at the end of the day, it's marketing, communication, transparency. Well, hotel reviews is actually just run-of-the-mill. The only thing that's helpful is scathing reviews. I mean, out of the umpteen hotel reviews, you look at the best and the poorest reviews. If something went terribly wrong, you just double check, well, is this applicable to me? So scathing, generalized reviews are really helpful. So the extremes count. Another thing is, if you've got running text with subjective statements, it's very difficult to make sense of. Unfortunately, despite all the artificial intelligence, this is still true, and the structured reviews don't really reflect this. And the potentially meaningful information from hotel reviews also has to do with the source, has to do with the author. So who is writing, what is their language, what is the grammar, spelling, typos, etc. So what is this kind of guy or person writing this review? Is it somebody who's like me? Because I can only find the right product if there's a match. And I'm going to talk about the perfect match in a minute. Hotel reviews, as far as I'm concerned, are no longer an enabler, but a disabler. So they prevent people from booking, and then they don't enable bookings anymore. So on our online travel agency websites, we provide consumers not just with a flood of products, but also with a flood of hotel reviews. So read through this and then get back to us in a couple of hours' time once you've finished. So actually, in the old days, a travel agent had this task of advising the customer, and actually the customer has to do this themselves. We tell them, you're forced to read through this, and partly we also provide them with very modest content. So very poor, very imprecise hotel reviews. So I'm saying disabler because I said, well, scathing reviews are the ones which really matter. And, the consumer reads the reviews, and then whenever they come across that review, maybe they decide to refrain from booking. Now, I mean, 9 different websites are the average number that people visit before they do a booking. And actually, this is not a philosopher's stone, is it? Because sooner or later, people will just get fed up by information overkill. They feel that they don't feel reassured, but rather on the contrary, the conversion rate, i.e. the success rate. I mean, somebody who just visits an OTA and then actually books something didn't go up. So it doesn't help people find a product faster, but it actually prevents them from finding a product quickly. So the conversion rate is stable. If you look at the number of OTA and the hotel reviews, holiday trip and holiday check, etc., so the rate at holiday check is about 50%. So the more content you provide, the more information overkill you provide, the more difficult the life becomes for the consumer. So this plethora of data actually disables or prevents conversion. And what now? We've got 12 years of hotel reviews under our belt. So what are the lessons learned? I mean, I'm not, denigrating hotel reviews. Without hotel reviews, it would be even worse. Maybe it's not such a bad thing that they've become a commodity. And sooner or later, any revolution, any kind of revolution becomes run-of-the-mill, becomes part and parcel of everyday life. Sooner or later, any kind of revolution becomes part and parcel of people's everyday lives. Sooner or later, subcultures become part of the mainstream. You maybe break off a Mercedes star, no longer wear it proudly around your neck, but you can buy it at H&M's. and that, becomes part of the mainstream, and that is not an issue. Hotel reviews are now part of the establishment. They are hackneyed. So that's not such a bad thing. But what now? Quo vadis. But I don't have a crystal ball, but I can just give you my personal opinion. I think now the time is ripe for a second revolution, because the first revolution did a fairly good job. It kind of swept away the power of stars, the power of glossy brochures, but it's still not good enough. It's not the end of the story. And what we need now is the second revolution, a revolution of honesty. Maybe it's very utopian, maybe it's very brazen a statement, but let me be a dreamer. Hotel reviews are very generalized and very, minimalist judgments, and they hardly contain any information on the author. So you've got, in a nutshell, hotel review, I was there, was nice, goodbye. And that hardly tells me anything about the author. What kind of guy is he? Maybe I know he's a guy, or maybe I know he's female, or they are female. I don't know whether they are black, or what their style is, what else they like, what their holiday, vacation preference is. So I don't have that metadata. On the other hand, in comes hotel marketing. Hotel marketing is very much focused on the good sides of the products, on the upsides. It doesn't focus on the customer, but it focuses on the organization, focuses on the hotel. So hotel marketing always starts with one premise. It focuses on the strength of a hotel. It doesn't focus on the guest preferences or what they are looking for. And I think we've got dishonesty here. There's a kind of mixed message between two different worlds of information. So in the hotel industry, we still have not the preparedness of being frank and open and saying what we can't do. We still focus on what we can do. And I think this is to do with a basic premise and fallacy on which the initial hotel review was, or hotel glossy prospect was based. Our hotel makes everyone happy. Everything to anyone. And communicating your strengths, but also your weaknesses, is something that hardly anyone dares. So part of that honesty is, being frank about your weaknesses. Personally, I'm really bad at arithmetics. I can't do simple, if you ask me to divide X by Y, then I can't do it. And I'm open about that. But a hotel would never be open about what it can't do. And, a hotel will never say, well, if you're a parent with small kids, you won't be happy in my hotel, or I don't want to cater to these customers. Hotels will never dare to do that because they will be afraid of losing customers. But this is exactly what you have to do. And I just said scathing reviews are the only reviews that really matter. And I think that kind of honesty is really essential for creating the right matching the right guests with the right customers, with the right hotels. The hospitality industry, marketing in hospitality industry is like matchmaking, is like dating. It's like a dating agency. You want to make sure that you have the right hotelier finding the right guest. We're in a segment, a product segment, where it's about a people business, and it's a very emotional business because you want to spend the best time of the year. Your vacation here in this hotel, or especially when you're a business traveler, you want to make sure that you're relaxed and rested when you get up the next day, and you can start off into a good day. And this is why I talk about guest and host. You need to find the right match, and it would be good if you had a kind of dating test for both sides, which is brutally honest. Well, if you kind of fill in a dating sheet and you have a fake profile and lie, then it's never going to work. If you have a real date, it's never going to work. You're never going to end up with that person. If you say you're 22 years of age, I'm a top athlete, I do sports all the day, and then I end up with a middle-aged person with a pot belly, no, it's never going to work, is it? And this is what I mean by being brutally honest. And this is exactly what hotels have to do. Unfortunately, it's not the way the hotel marketing industry works right now. Hotel description come up with wrong descriptions, also in glossy brochures and catalogs. So they are dishonest. They were dishonest, they are still dishonest. And this is a sad story about that. It's like, selling a consumer electronics device and having a wrong specification or a description with it. And we're in a highly emotional product segment where being dishonest is even worse. And, having embellished, boring, and interchangeable commoditized hotel reviews is counterproductive. And, people just read these reviews. They're boring. They have on top of that, they have the official glossy descriptions of a hotel. It's never going to work. The future of hotel marketing is creating an honest profile. So as a guest, you need to be honest. Who am I? What am I looking for? And as a host, you need to be honest. What are my strengths? And who am I catering to? Who is my customer? Who do I want to have as a customer? And that is very important. This is my dream guest. You need to be honest as a hotel and say, this is the kind of person I want to attract to my beds. And as a guest, you need to be honest too and say, this is my preference. And if it's really honest, and then it's going to go kazoom if you meet. It's like meeting a dating partner, online dating partner. And, it only works if you've been brutally honest with each other and, not having provided wrong information on your weight or your size or your big ears. So hotel reviews, let's recap, initially were a successful revolution. Now they've become commoditized. However, this basic feature only has little value added. Hotel reviews, unfortunately, didn't meet the expectations which initially were vested in them. We need a new genuine revolution. Marketing in the hospitality industry works like matchmaking, and you'll only be successful if you're brutally honest. Now let's change tack, and we've got 5-6 more minutes, and I would really love to hear from you in the audience, because this kind of presentation or paradigm is brand new. I would love to flesh it out in further detail with you. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much. So I've got 2 footnotes. At Holiday Inn Check, you can select basing on the family status or, well, if I want to, travel with my family, I can have a pre-selection, so it's not completely individualized, but it's also possible to some extent. But my second question, what about the Airbnb reviews? Because here the sender of the review is known as transparent, and they also get peer reviews, so it's mutual reviews. Isn't this your preference? Well, let's get back to your first question. I don't really think the socio-demographic features of the sender are good enough. It's not sufficient. It just gives me an idea of, who traveled with you, with whom. But a holiday check-in is slightly better than the host of reviews. So it goes exactly into the right direction. Peer reviews. So both give mutual reviews, and both need to create a mutual profile. And if somebody goes to Airbnb and sends a request to the host, then they give a description of themselves. This is me, this is why I'm in town, and they give some metadata on themselves. So the host can also decide whether it's the right match, or they can also decide, well, they will probably be happy with my product, or they can decide whether they don't want to have this guest with their product. I mean, Airbnb goes into the right direction. That's exactly my point. Actually, I have 2 comments or observations, rather questions. Question number 1. Matchmaking analogy. The matchmaking analogy is slightly bizarre. Because if it's it works if it's a one-on-one relationship, but a hotel doesn't just have one room, but has several rooms, and the guests can pick from different hotel rooms, and therefore it's very difficult to come up with that one-on-one relationship, especially when it's about a hotel chain where you have a centralized marketing. So it's not a one-on-one relationship between sender and receiver. And secondly, actually being brutally honest is a nice utopia, but it's not really realistic, because If you only have one person and, everybody else sells this, then this is going to be a disadvantage. Well, especially the second comment is extremely exciting. I mean, if I'm active in a market which is not really honest, and I'm the only one who's honest in this dishonest market, does this, does this spoil my business? Of course, it's going to backfire in the near future, but in the long term, it's going to work out. Maybe in the first step, it's a certain risk, but once you've created a profile and reputation, you're going to be found better. And first point, I perfectly subscribe to your point of view. I think it's a major challenge, especially for big hotels and chains. They've got a clear-cut brand idea, but up to now, they've never been able to filter that brand image to the customer themselves. So the customer perception of the market, of the brand experience, is very often completely different from the initial intention. And I think a brand experience always a one-on-one relationship. And when it comes to the matchmaking, it's always about a complete product and a complete target group. Two questions. When it comes to hotel reviews, I think there was a major fallacy. There were review platforms where you could just write a review without proving that you ever spent a single night there, and this gave rise to a lot of fake reviews. I personally, as a user, would only read reviews on platforms where an overnight stay will be an eligibility criteria for writing a review. And I think that was the biggest mistake to begin with. And, being brutally honest, I think it's difficult. I mean, maybe you could put a question to 10 hoteliers and look at their answers. But I think in terms of the legal issues, we'd be out on a limb, because that would discriminate against certain people right from the word go. I think utopia of honesty is, of course, a very, brazen statement, and you can agree to disagree, and I'm more than happy to have a more in-depth discussion with you. And now let's get back to your first point. I think Holiday Check and TripAdvisor go to great lengths in order to make sure that they don't have any fake reviews. So they really validate these reviews in depth, because otherwise they would destroy their own business model. But I think other channels where the hotel reviews are very sparse in terms of content, are just published without any filter, like with Google, are a bit more of an issue. And, that's really an issue, especially when you then kind of don't differentiate and create an average. Another question? Actually, you wanted to find out about the time that people spend in order to find out information about the destination. How can you shorten that timeline? And now, if somebody really wants to get more demographic data on a guest, then I was wondering about the Big Brother and, data privacy and etc. So how much data do I want to divulge as a guest in the run-up to a hotel stay? That's your point, isn't it? I think in any kind of sales talk, which doesn't happen in the public domain, but on a one-on-one, in a one-on-one talk, I mean, I tell them how much money I have and how I articulate myself, etc., with a sales rep. I divulge an awful lot of data, and however, if you could factor that in, then that would remove a lot of concerns about, kind of Big Brother and data privacy. And second question, what was it again? How can you shorten the time span spent before finding a hotel? I mean, you said reading 10 to 20 reviews before booking. I think that's a major challenge for artificial intelligence in combination with matching through an algorithm. I was speaking to Holiday Check. Actually, these discussions have been ongoing since 2008. How can you analyze written text? How can you find out about the profile of the author? What are their other preferences? So semantic analysis, analyzing the language, the semantics, etc. All of this is definitely going to become more important in this field in years to come, but right now it doesn't look too impressive. It's still early days right now. Unfortunately, time flies. We don't have time for any further questions. Maybe you've got some time to spend here in the e-travel lounge for further questions. Okay, you can contact the speaker bilaterally. The e-travel lounge is directly over there, and you can put your questions to the speakers. Thank you very much.